boy.
It's like you were reading what I was going to say. I mean,
Let me pour myself another drink here.
yeah, I come from a banking, industry and the finance industry, and I've had to leave the finance and the bank industry. So when you talk real estate, I sat with these bond registration lawyers, this transfer. I know that system, and I could tell you, they could give somebody a mortgage on 11%, and actually someone inside gets it at 4%. And so you could see there's a huge gap, over there. So that's why, when Sonia talk about this, I get excited, because when I wrote,
I saw you can jump out your seat.
When I wrote my book, Why You Should Become the Bank, I was mad, and I wrote it in 4 days, and I finished it, and it was really such a frustration to say, we gotta see justice, especially when it comes into this area. And one of the things that has held back the economic freedom of the people, I can tell you with confidence, is that it's the banking industry. So the banking industry is one of the biggest problems that that have held back for right now. In fact, we are on 411 years since central banking started in Amsterdam.
Right.
And central banking, because of its usury, exorbitant interest, it has held people back from progressing, in terms of being free. And the reason I wrote the book, it was the Easters, it was the Passover, and it was like the Holy Spirit was saying to me, we have to have a shift on our conversation about Passover. We can't just say it's Passover, Jesus hanged on the cross, then we quote these 7 words. Yes, that is critical, it's essential, but the origin of the Passover, it was about God coming in, using Moses to set the slaves free. And there was slavery. So there's justice connected with Passover. And so when we talk justice, it's not just politically. Yes, they came out of Egypt, but they had to transition to be ready to be educated, so that then they could be owners of the land where they were going. And so when they came into Canaan, then there was an organization part, which is there had to be a system, whether it was tribal, but there was a system where the distribution happened as in tribes, as in clans. So when you have that, so you see a model there where you got families, where you got clans, where you got tribes, and the system that was used there was not what we are having, what we call globalization. It was localization. So localization, basically, everything is decentralized. So you've got the local communities having families, men leading their homes and their communities, and they sit at the city gates as elders, gates of influence, and coming in together, designing systems of the legal system, designing constitutional assemblies, legal system, how to deal with this thing based on the Torah, and also designing a financial or economic system in terms of how are we going to trade as tribes. And it wasn't just money, but you create a currency. A currency doesn't have to be money. It could be value that you create. It could be exchange. That was barter trading. But we're seeing that now we're going back into that, but not as barter trading, but as a sense of value. That if we could find value in one another and begin to really see exactly that every person is created in the image of God, and that they're capable of more than just what the system has taught us and has designed us to be, we can do more. So with localization, what we find now, currently, that to practicalize this is that over the history, especially in South Africa, with the British colonizing, South Africa, they were using cooperatives. Cooperatives, they are like in communities. So that's how they design the economy, from cooperatives, where you have a co-op for agriculture, co-op for retail, co-op for that. It was the best way to organize economy because it enjoys benefit from the states. And also there's a sense of community. So community is very central in terms of this, whether it be tribes or it's industries. And even when the other government, the apartheid government came in, they still continued with that cooperative system. And they knew that through a system like that, they had a problem with the British government, the Africans. So their idea of really taking back power was, let's have a Congress and talk about how to set up these small clubs, these cooperatives, and they built up a bank, Polska's Bank, which became the Absa Bank later in the years. And out of that, they knew that if you don't build a finance system, you can build other cooperatives such as retail, food, and what, but you're gonna need money. And if you're gonna need money and you go to the normal banks, they don't care about you. They don't care about your transformation. And so they built up that system to a point now it's Absa. We've got Barclays Bank, which really came in on board with it. And you can see an example of a system that was built from a localized type of thinking. And even today, we could still begin this by ensuring that we localize our industry. So if there's an industry in beauty and wherever, we literally localize that. We build in a sense of community. But out of these communities, you can be able to then create a financial co-op, a financial community where community-based financing, you've got people starting to save up their money. I mean, the Jewish, the Hebraic lifestyle in terms of principles of money, they were given what you call the 5-job principle. When they get 100% of their money, they tithe the tenth, they save the tenth, they give the tenth, they invest 20% of their money, and they only spend 50%. So where do we put our savings? We put it in the bank. Where do we put our investment? We can have option into seven streams. But do you know what do we do most of the time? We put it in a bank. Which bank? The same central banking that does not care about us. Now imagine if we had community finance institute where the same money that we save, we're saving it there every month. We are actually investing it there so that we begin to identify industries from among the local that we can start investing in these projects and they can have good return because we are a collective, and even leveraging on some of the system existing, whether it be buying a share, like right now, shares have dropped, everything is dropped. So if we had a system like that, we could be saying, we're gonna buy that. In South Africa, I know in Free State, women that have done that, and they've managed to buy buildings. They buy buildings one by one. They buy hotels one by one. They're buying things because that's what banks do. The banks, they make sure that they buy everything that is around so that they can have the leverage. This is what we need. This is the revolution that we need. We don't need another
revolution and the revolution.
You know, I mean, we don't need another political revolution. Politics, I mean, political parties, it's a thing of the past right now. These things are not going to work and solve anything. And what we need a financial revolution. And it's not by us marching into Washington with placards and everywhere. It is by us getting the right financial education. It is by us getting the right education like this, transitioning properly so that we are best positioned to be able to capture these resources as they fall, you know, from this system that are being crippled. Imagine if we pull away all our money from where we're having all these savings.
They would chase us down.
We're gonna disrupt the market. And that's exactly what we need to do. But we need the education during this transitioning time as we're in lockdown to say, how do we set this up? How do we become a system so that when we do it in a transition way, you know, it doesn't create a scare, but we know what we are doing. We have a clear agenda. And this is why education is very key, as you've said, as a system. I've stopped.
And